Hello, my name is Rajat Talesra and welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. So in this video, I want to talk about open source contributions because of two reasons. One, it's September and a lot of college students start contributing towards November and December. October, November, December just after Diwali because of GSOC. So that's one. And second is in general, I think that students as well as professionals should contribute to open source contribution, open source projects, and I'll tell you why I think so and all the reasons and about everything about it. So this is the index that we'll be following. These are the rough guidelines. Like I'll talk about first myself and then what is an open source project, how can you, what are the projects that I have contributed to, what are the advantages of contributing to it, how to find projects, and what are the next steps. Okay. So obviously last three will be the most important one, but let's do. So I'm from Udaipur, India, Rajasthan, and I have 8+ years of experience. Most of the that have been in Android, but recently, since last 3 to 4 years, I've been working in Ruby on Rails and React. Okay, and most of my contributions have been open sourced. Okay, let's see where. Okay, so what is an open source project? Basically, it's a project which someone can view as a developer. I can view the code, I can modify the code, and up to certain extent I can distribute it also. In some cases it they don't allow it to distribute it, but basically for us the important part is I can view and modify the code. Okay, now what are the angles to any open source project? So what are the things that I can think of in terms of contribution? So I can contribute to code, I can contribute to their documentation, I can contribute to their design. Some specific projects do have that. I can contribute to their testing and Q&A quality assurance frameworks. And obviously, I can manage the entire community. For example, there would be a lot of contributors who would be interested in contributing, but it is not easy or straightforward to contribute to open source. So their community management role does play a good role. Okay, and I have played. I've actually done all of these things. Other than design, I have been part of design process, but I haven't created Figma or Xcode based designs. Sorry, not Xcode, Figma or Adobe. Uh, there was some tool related to Adobe related to design. I don't remember, but the recent ones were there. So basically, in that design process, I have been part. I have been part of Q&A and testing, and I have managed open source communities for a really long time. So let's go. Projects that I have contributed. So there are two main projects that I have contributed. First one is the OPI and second one is the forum. Both of them are at really, really good scale. Uh, Really great products. You might have used it up to a certain extent, especially Dev.2. Uh, so yeah, it has been a wonderful experience for me. I have spent almost 4 to 5 years in these two projects. Okay, so in Opia, it was a project which was a non-profit project basically. So they were not. It's a project in education domain, but they were not focused on the profitability part. There was no concept of money and that kind of thing. So it was funded by Google. It was getting developed by Googlers. I was one of the full-time contributors here. Okay, and to an extent that I was when the Android repository was empty, I became a part of the team at that point. Okay, so I had seen the entire code base and all the architectural decisions and everything in place. Okay, along with that, I have done almost 300 pull requests. If you have created, if you have contributed on any project, you will know what pull request means. Basically, it's a piece of code that you push at a time. So I've done, and at a professional level, I would say it requires almost in 1 week you can do around 1 to 3 pull requests at an extent of OPR or forum. Okay, 1 to 3 pull requests only. So you can assume what the scale is. 300 pull requests is a really long number in that case. Uh, but obviously it varies a lot. So there are mainly two type of code bases in Opia. One is the Android project and second one is the web code base. Okay, I think in web they used at that time they used Python and Angular. Mostly they would be. So I've led multiple teams here related to the project, and also I was managing the entire open source community. So if any student, any person comes and who is not part of the full team, full-time team members, wants to contribute in the project, I would be first point of contact for them, and I would guide them to the entire process and assign them team, manage them basically. Okay. So basically, I helped a lot of college and university students in that domain. If I put it in number, it would be more than 50, between 50 to 100, 15 to 100. Okay. Now, the second project was Forum, which is dev.to. It's a very famous blogging website. In this, I did roughly 200 PRs. I created the Android app from scratch, published it on Play Store, and along with that, I worked on the website front, which is the React and Ruby on Rails. I basically shifted from Android to Ruby on Rails with their project. And the main things here were my code contribution. I did not manage the community in this part. Okay. So what are the advantages? First of all, you can see that the first thing is that anyone can see anyone's code, anyone's PR, anyone's contribution. So everything is open. Now, if everything is open, people can criticize easily. If you have an open mind, actually you can learn a lot during this process. Okay, you will have to follow a particular process, proper documentation needs to be done. So everything makes perfect sense when you're working in open source contribution. Okay, that's one. Second is obviously you can learn from everyone. It can be your senior, it can be your junior. So it's overall fun thing to do. About visibility. So I've written it in all caps because I think that has been a really good thing for me. So as I mentioned that I've done almost 4 to 5 years of open source contributions, right? Apart from that, also I've worked on projects, but those projects I can show the end product, the application and all, but I cannot show the code. Okay. And if you cannot show the code, and your, let's say, interview process doesn't go that great whenever you are applying to a company or even applying for the resume part at that stage only. But if you can show them the open source contributions, okay, a lot of good companies will get really impressed by that, okay, because they can see your code, they can identify up to which extent you can communicate, what are the type of test cases you can write, what is the level of difficulty you can handle, all those things they can easily see using your contributions, by viewing your contributions. Obviously, not each and every team, each and every interviewer will do that, but still, at least once you do these open source contribution, you can give that chance to someone, right? For example, I won't take the example of open source contributions, but I have been creating YouTube videos for like 8 to 9 months. Okay. And during these 8 to 9 months, I have got at least 8 to 10 opportunities. Like people have approached me on LinkedIn that, hey, I saw your video. It's really great. Can you work with my startup? Can you work at my company? All those things. Okay. Can you work on my project? Can you teach me personally? I've been teaching people personally, obviously on the paid basis. So overall, people see your content and they reach out to you. That's an advantage. Okay, so same applies for open source contribution also. How to find the project? So let's start with that process. Okay, I will just quickly switch to this. What I tend to do, obviously there are blogs and articles, so you can Google search top 10 open source project, top 50 open source project in Python, top 5 top open source projects in React. You can do those kind of Google search. But what I will do is I will go to GitHub, and in this, let's see, open source. Let's do React. Okay. So there are 4.1K links. Okay. I'll just quickly open a couple of them. Okay. A lot of them won't be helpful for me, but let's still open it. Okay. Free code camp, this, Framer, this. Now, some of them you might find as famous names. For example, Framer is a famous name. Free code camp is really famous. Facebook is definitely famous. Um, who doesn't know Facebook? So yeah, so you can find famous projects here. Obviously, if I would have done Google search, I would have gotten it in a much more refined way, but let's start here. Now in this, once you go through this process, you will have to go through all the projects and see couple of things. First thing that I do is I check out the about. Okay. Okay, Docusaurus, these are the project projects, these are the tech that you're using, React, JavaScript and all. This is the code contribution. Major languages are TypeScript, CSS and other. Okay. So I know React, and if they're using TypeScript and CSS, it's a good fit for me from that perspective. Okay. So first is tech stack that you have to find. Second, I will see how recently it is getting updated, how much this entire project is maintained. So last commit was yesterday. Definitely really active. Let's see last issue and pull request. So last issue was filed. There are 270 open pull issues. So it's a huge number. That means a lot of things are working in parallel. So you will always get time to work on something, and you will have a choice. Basically, you will have to pick one of those issues, right? Out of 270, you will have to work on something, one or two or three. So you will have a lot of options to start with. Last issue was filed 2 days back. Last pull request created last week. Last pull request merged was last week. So all these indications are giving me that it is an active project. So first was the tech stack. Second is the activeness. Okay, I have identified the activeness of this project. Now comes the setup part and basically the documentation. Like, how do I get started? I have identified that this is a good project to work on. How do I get started? So before you think what I will work on, first you should set up this project locally and run this locally. Can you run this locally? If you can run this locally, then you should go to issues, find out what you can work on. We'll go in that also. So normally I go to start with readme.md file. It does contain normally information. So you can check out 5-minute tutorial. Okay. Installation process they have mentioned. Okay, we can do that. Code of contributing. Okay, so this is the contributing guide in which this guide should help. Contributing guide, beginner friendly bugs. They have already highlighted some bugs which you as a beginner can work on. So because these are four issues which have good first issue written in it, label good first issue, they are more user friendly, more beginner friendly issues basically. Okay, this is the documentation. Okay, get involved, getting started, opening an issue, opening a pull request. All these documentations you should read. Once you have read that, once you have set up the project, after that you should identify what task you can work on, comment on that particular issue. For example, if I go to issues, label good first issues, and in this, if I see something like this, accessibility related, and okay, first I'll have to see whether someone else is assigned. No one is assigned. Let's see last comment on this. Okay, last comment was really old. That means no one is actively working on this issue. Okay, this is a proof that no one is working on it right now. So now I will just leave a comment. Hey, can I work on this so that someone, because right now I don't know who are the team members on this project, right? So I'll just comment, hey, I want to work on this. I've read the documentation and I've done the setup work. Uh, I will be starting on this, but if you have any other suggestions, feel free to let me know. So it's a very friendly message that you can leave. It doesn't mean that they will reply it, but still, it's a good duty for you to work, mention that. Now, if someone else comes in and see or start working on this issue directly without reading, at some point they will realize you left a comment just before them, like one day before them. So maybe you are working on it, right? Now, obviously, after that, you will have to work and create pull requests. That pull request process depends upon company to company, project to project. So for that, you will have to read the entire documentation that I mentioned. Okay. Now let's see some projects which are not good. For example, this one. This is definitely not good. I'll explain you why. I've already seen something because of which I'm saying this. But first thing is there is only one branch right now that gave me first indication. Second, there was no count on issues and pull requests. That's why I was thinking, okay, if there are no issues, there are no pull requests, there's nothing to maintain much. Okay. Then there are various tags, React. Okay, great. They use TypeScript, so it might be a good fit for me. Have they mentioned something? Getting started. Okay, I can use this to set up project locally. Learn more. Next.js, this support. Okay, credit terms and life. Okay, so there is nothing about how to contribute. Okay, if I go to issues, there are no issues. If I go to pull requests, there are no pull requests. So I won't spend much time in it. Let's skip this because it looks like it is an active project, but at the same time, it's a bit closed, not fully open. Let's close this. React Native apps that just have README, so let's close this directly. This project again, this. Okay, last commit 3 months ago, which means it is not fairly active. So even if you create pull request, you might not get a review pretty soon. So again, not interested. Not interested. 7 hours. It's good. They have documentation guide also. They have a huge tech stack. They have a lot of issues. They have a lot of pull request, contributing guide which mentions how to work on it. So basically, I know that it is a good project, and obviously, Free Code Camp does have a reputation. So this is a good project. This one is not. It is just become a job ready developer. Okay, this is not the best one. So let's not keep it. Again, form break 2 days ago. Okay, good. 95, 4, 14. These both of these are good numbers. Tech stack, I am happy with this. So I just have to go through the getting started part and set it up locally and start the development and everything around that. Okay. and finally Framer and all those things. So this is the entire process how you identify a good GitHub project, a good open source project. Now you see, during this process, I went through 5 to 6 projects and I was able to identify one or two, maybe three. I think the third one was also good. So 3 good projects, right? It took me hardly 5 to 10 minutes to identify 3 projects. Okay, obviously I do have experience in that, but now I've taught you how to do that. So I would highly recommend you to give 30 minutes to this, find out 5 projects and mention it in comments. Okay. Now I'll mention you all the steps that I think you can do. Identify 5 to 6 projects. Okay. Uh, First, you will obviously have to identify your tech stack. If you already are working on React or Rails or Android or iOS, something specific, you can directly search for that. Otherwise, you will have to uh, identify it for your sake, like how you want to do it. Okay, which tech stack you want to follow. Second is research 5 to 6 projects, the same step that I did. Now, in this case, please mention in comment which tech stack you search, for example, React or Rails, and in that mention what all projects along with links, GitHub links that you saw that these are good projects. Okay, so that anyone in future wants to contribute, especially the college student guys, it would be helpful for them. Okay, basically that's the whole motive. Now, once you identify 5 projects in this entire process, identify project. I did nothing else. Set those projects locally. Try to run them locally. I'm assuming out of 5, 1 or 2 will be a bit hard to set up locally. Still, I would encourage you to do that, but let's assume that you were able to set up only 2 or 3. Once you're able to do that, you'll automatically get confidence. Okay, I've set it up locally. I know the tech stack. So I just have to identify the issue and start working on it. So for that, go to issues section, try to find a issue with the label good first issue or good second issue, and maybe start working on it. So this is the entire process. If you like this video, do leave a like, share it with your friends, especially college students. Do share it in your community so that everyone can learn. Subscribe to this channel and you can become a member. I have turned on the memberships. You can become a member and see the perks and advantages of that. That's it for now. If you have any questions, feel free to leave in comments. This was suggested by one of my contributors slash team members. So that's why I created this video. So if you have any suggestion, feel free to let me know. That's it. Thank you. Bye bye.